Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I want to thank my dear, dear friend Jimmy Flowers for this because it kind of reminded me of history on the highways. Remember the old Burma shave signs that were along all the roads? Oh, I can remember them vividly. I remember when I was a young boy, my parents took us all across the United States, and I remember reading all the Burma shave signs, and here's one that Jimmy sent me. A man, a miss, a car, a curve. He kissed the miss and missed the curve. Burma shave. Remember those? Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot. Come on, Patriots. I want somebody to call in with a Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, good morning. And a good morning to you and yours up at the ranch on a Tuesday, the last Tuesday of October, the 29th. My goodness, this month went fast. And, of course, Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a big fall tire sale going on right now. Stop in and see any one of the 7 locations today. And, of course, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, along with Elite Fitness in Burley, helping you to get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, Doug. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, old buddy. And right now it's time for the weather, brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. I drove by there. I was in a big hurry yesterday, and I drove by. I was going to stop in for a few minutes and see Roger, and I was running late. And that front yard, if you will, has just all kinds of equipment. I mean, whatever you're looking for, whatever you need with the best tools and equipment, it's right there at K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. And I want to emphasize that with all the equipment and all the tools and everything, they've got heaters. And boy, when it's 16 degrees outside right now, you might need some heaters. So check it out today at K&R Rental on the Burley-Paul Highway. Here's Gina with the weather.
Feels a little bit more like winter today. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We do have a 20% chance of snow showers at least until we get to noon. By the afternoon, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a high of 25, plus a little bit breezy, gusts as high as 24 miles an hour out of the northeast. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, gradually becoming clear in the overnight hours. Going to get cold, though. Low of about 5. Winds are going to stay consistent, gusts as high as about 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, expecting a high of 32. Winds are going to be calming down, nice and clear for tomorrow night with a low of 12. By Thursday, sunny and 43, warming up to 45 under sunny skies by Friday. That's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Wow, double wow. It really came on fast. It came on early with the cold temperatures. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn on the Burley-Paul Highway. If you're not sure what you need for any project, hey, get on the landline, give them a call at 678-3122. K&R Rental. Also, want to give a great big shout-out and a thank you to Merv Maycade Rogge and Lance Udy over at the sale that works for you, the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. And their big sale is going to be this Thursday, probably starting at about 10:30. I may have to change that a little bit, and I'll let you know. It's all there for you, the best of a livestock sale. Number to call for cattle consignments and sale information, 678-9411. Thursday sale day, Burley Livestock Sale Yard in Burley. Don't you miss it. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You asked me to call back after I read that article on the climate thing in the local rag here yesterday.
Yes.
And I have done that, and I mean, you can shoot holes in that whole article. I mean, they make all these assumptions that the science is settled, and, you know, it's just unbelievable that they can put that garbage out.
Well, let me interject with you a little bit on that article, because as you know, in the first half hour, I'm loaded with advertisers, and I want to just get this out to you. The science isn't settled. I know a lot of great scientists, and I've had them on my program. I know a lot of climatologists and meteorologists that are not going to point the finger at mankind. They're going to say, and they have said, that it's cyclical, and people like a very well-known meteorologist, Joe Bastardi with the National Weather Service, of whom I am trying to get on the air next week. If you call them climate deniers and they're not very smart, then you're an idiot, because most people respect their vast knowledge.
Well, here's the whole deal. You know, they say that, like I say, the science is settled, and they say to dispute this is like disputing gravity. Well, the problem is they're only using the viewpoint of about less than 100 scientists, and at least they claim to be scientists, and 97%. That's the figure we hear all the time about scientists that are in favor of man-caused global warming, when there's over 31,000 U.S. scientists have signed a petition against man-caused global warming.
That's right. That's right.
You know, congressional hearings, etc.
Well, Adrian, the point I think you and I both agree on this thing, I need to get you on this program for a full segment, but to say that the science is settled and all of us, you and I and others like us, are naysayers and aren't real bright and we're toothless and we kind of sit around and scratch ourselves all day, that's idiocy, because the science is not settled. And I'll go back to one other point. I have never heard, maybe you have, but I've never heard anybody on the left that really is an advocate of climate change / global warming ever say that they are a Christian or believe in God.
Well, that's the whole problem. This whole thing is about controlling people. Even the UN people have admitted, and all 73 of the UN models have been proven wrong, by the way, and probably the thing that's controls what happens on Earth is that bright thing in the sky. And right now we don't have much sunspot activity. And what they have found, the real climatologists, during those periods of time, we have more clouds, more precipitation, and colder temperatures. We're going to be 30 degrees below normal today.
Yeah. We're
supposed to be 59, and they're talking like 26. The wind chill right now is -2.
Yeah.
The temperature is 16.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable that, you know, they keep on with this hoax, and of course Trump gets beat up for pulling us out of the Paris Climate Accord, which was rightfully so, because it's based on junk science, and it's all about controlling the planet. It's all about the United Nations Agenda 21, and the polar bears are increasing, not decreasing. I mean, everything they're telling us is just the opposite of what's really
I agree.
on the planet.
Adrian, I'm so glad that you read. I know, but I'm so glad you read that article and called me back. But I need to get you on this program and a segment so we can discuss all this anti-CO2 and everything else. I got a bunch of commercials I've got to get in, plus other calls. Thank you, my dear friend. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Folks, just get hold of our elected officials and tell them to stop, supporting this junk science, and let the real scientists prevail. But the mainstream media will not let it on, including the Times News. They will not let me say a word about against man-caused global warming.
I know, Adrian. I've got to run. And I would imagine that our dear friend over in Eden, former Supreme Court Judge Jim Jones, may have sewn in a little sheepskin to keep warm in his old judge's robe right now. Anyway.
I don't know where he's at, but he's full of horse pucky, I tell you, when it comes to trying to write about things he doesn't know anything about.
Amen to that. Got to run. Thank you so much. Appreciate your call. Now, caller number 2, I want you to realize that I'm going to ask you to hold just for a minute because I am running a little bit late, and I want to make sure I get all my advertisers in. I want to remind everybody about Darrow's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Absolutely the best at what they do. We were just stopped in there the other day, as a matter of fact. I've got a bunch of rumply crumplies that need to come back looking brand spanking new, and they can do the job. And they can also do all your washing, too. Washing, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes, just like Mama used to do. So stop in, see Kevin and Cindy today at Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. They are waiting right this moment to serve you. Real quick, too, Ramsey Heating and Electric. I just absolutely thank them for all the years that they've been on this program and all the years they've been in business. Almost 7 decades, as a matter of fact, with all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning to 5 Monday through Friday, and the number to call, 678-0459. The best serving you, Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley. You get a hold of them today. And I know, caller, you're prancing at the bit right there. Prancing at the bit. There we go. And I want to tell everybody about Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. God bless these wonderful people. Every time we have Lunch Munch, Michelle and the rest of the staff, they go overboard in helping us, serving us, and creating the right atmosphere for the holiday, whatever. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. Delicious food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner anytime, all the time. And all the great desserts, they're waiting for you. Come on down, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. They are the home of Zeb's Lunch Munch. Really, really good people. Caller, good morning. I am so sorry. Go ahead, please.
I'm awake. Okay, Zeb, let's do this. Let's talk about the upcoming election in the city of Burley. I have seen less yard signs. I haven't heard one thing from one of the candidates. This is a very lackluster season.
Okay, wait. I want to tell you something. My lovely wife, Deanne, who is also our sales manager, she, over a month ago, tried to contact every one of the parties that are running for the various elections. And because most people have now changed their modus operandi to cell phones, they don't have landlines, and we were told by various officials that we couldn't pass out numbers, and Deanne had a hard time trying to find anybody, get telephone numbers to call them to do any advertisements on the air or promote what they were running for. I'm not going to take any blame, and I know you're not passing it on to me, but I'm not going to take any blame for a politician's lack of ability of trying to tell the public that they're running and for what office. Each and every one of those people that didn't put up yard signs, didn't do any advertising, didn't do any newspaper, didn't do any radio, didn't do anything, a shame on them because they're not doing their job and trying to tell the public what they're running for.
Yeah, in this particular case, they can't even choose the best-looking one of the bunch because it's not visible.
Well, the point I want to get at, though, and I'm not going to be facetious about this, is I had a couple of calls yesterday regarding the same thing. And, well, why aren't you talking about so-and-so? Why aren't you talking about so-and-so on this particular issue? Hey, don't you dare wag your finger at me when these so-called politicians that want to run for an office aren't aware of the fact that they'd better develop an advertising campaign and they better let people know how they can get a hold of them. It's their fault, not ours.
Well, as a politician, want to be a politician, I should say, They should say what they stand for.
Well, that's the whole point I'm getting at, Keith. How are we going to know what they stand for or even what office they're running for if it's almost impossible to get information from them and talk to them? And I put the onus right back on them. If they would sit down and talk to people that know advertising, and I'll say call me or call my wife, call anybody in the business of being a media outlet and say, what do I need to do? Maybe they'd do a better job. But I'm in total agreement with you that local politicians this year for November 5th, coming up next week, have totally dropped the ball.
You know, I spent 12 years on the Burley Highway District Commission, and each time, at each election, I didn't assume that everybody knew who I was or what I stood for. I went door to door.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody. I spent a lot of time at it, and of course, I got reelected. But, you know, if you don't know anything about anybody, how can you make...
Well, the point is, and if they don't know anything about advertising and how to get their point out on who's running and for what, it's their fault. I've got to run, Keith. Your point was very well taken. Thank you very much.
How's your blood pressure?
You aren't helping it any. All right. Thanks, buddy. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't go away. I've got bills to pay, and I want to remind everybody about Dr. Bill and the crew over at Ark Animal Hospital. And what we were telling you is coming to fruition. It's very cold out there, and water tanks are freezing, and these animals need water. They need more water in the wintertime, actually, than they do in the summertime. And I urge you to make sure you've got water heating and make sure they've got fresh water that's not frozen. This is a health factor for your animals, whether it's puppy dogs or a dairy herd. Anyway, for questions or anything to take care of your animals and keep them healthy, be sure and contact Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street, near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. It's true, they have the warm hearts for the cold noses, especially this morning. And the number to call, 678-1177. Ark Animal Hospital. You get a hold of those good folks today. And real quick, too, don't forget Dino's Septic Service. Yeah, I know, with the cold weather, you don't want to stand out there pumping a septic tank all of a sudden if something goes wrong. No, but they will. And they can, and they do. Dino's Septic Service, with a expanded business to better serve more people in this area. Number to call. Let the professionals help you with all the septic tank pumping, liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned. 436-6526 or 678-1638. Fast, fair, friendly service. I know because they've worked for us. They do a wonderful job. Dino Septic Service with the big truck that says Smells Cargo on the way. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. The menu for the Burley Senior Center today is beef stew, cornbread, salad, and yummy dessert. And for $5, all you can eat is call ahead and you can get one to go.
Okay, well, Joe, I'll tell you what, it's a little chilly out there. I would advise all the seniors to dress warm and wear a snuggy little collar or a bandana.
Yes, that white silk's out there.
Okay, buddy. You be careful out there. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, Joe. Thank you. Joe Taylor with the Senior Center on Overland. By the way, for some of the politicians that saw the light, we'd like to remind everybody that Mark Rosa would like your vote on November 5th for mayor of Heyburn. This is a man that has property in Heyburn, business in Heyburn, and wants your vote as mayor. And he wants to provide smart leadership that will keep taxes and utility rates in line with neighboring cities, and he will not overturn the will of the people by pushing through items that were voted down. He wants your vote on November 5th. That's Mark Rosa for Heyburn Mayor, and paid for by Mark Rosa for Mayor Committee. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It is cold out there. And I just really kind of look forward to any and all, and there's not very many, if any, stories about climate change or the kooks, the crazies coming out of the woodwork and, oh, we're burning up. No, we are not. And I said this earlier this morning, but honestly, I believe people that are involved in climate change that man is doing every time man gets out of bed in the morning, we create a ugly scene for climate change and global warming, which is absolutely sad. It's a sad lack of intelligence, gobbled up by people that are really, really naive. And I'm going to make my point, and if you disagree with me, that's fine. I believe that God controls all. Those are three words that I stand behind. God controls all. But the global warming, climate change kooks, which they are, with a lack of intelligence, can't accept that. It's easier to blame mankind. And I go back to what I said a few moments ago. I really have not heard, and if you have, please call me and correct me. I have not heard anyone on the left, I mean these people that rail about, we've got to take away all the cars and the buses and the trucks and we've all got to live hopefully in an igloo so we can cool things down and not poison the atmosphere. All these nuts. You never hear any of those people really say anything about their belief in God. I wonder if they have any. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, Friday night this week at 2611 Overland and Burley at Redder's Showcase, they're going to have a one-night only big Friday night sale. Oh, my goodness. This is going to be ripping good. Free gifts for the first 50 customers to run through the door. Sale starts at 4, goes till 9 p.m. that night. They're going to have Papa Kelsey cinnamon rolls. They're going to have tossing the bean bag for extra prizes and drawings. They're going to have many of the company and factory representatives on hand. Woo, baby, you can save money up to 18 months, same as cash, on approved credit. So don't forget, this is all at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley on Friday night from 4 till 9. Be there. Wow, sounds like a lot of fun to me. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'm looking at a picture, and I know you can't see it out there, but I'll try to describe it to you. I am looking at a picture of a crowd of people, and these people are all young people under the age, I think it's safe to say, under the age of 24. And there are many of them, hundreds of them. And they are demanding, hold on, caller, I'll be right with you, I want to finish my point. They are demanding that immigration and customs enforcement get out of California, and they are demanding on their signage that no human is illegal. These 24-year-old, wet-nosed, not dry behind the ears, punks that have never done anything, never accomplished anything, never had a business, never raised a family, etc., are absolutely condemning our law enforcement agencies like ICE. And with the saying that no human is illegal, they are advocating a total chaos of no borders. Everybody can go everywhere they want and reside where they want, and this is complete idiocy. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering what the Dipstick Patrol is going to say when we're still here in 12 years. With, they said we were all going to burn up in 12 years if we didn't do something about the global warming.
You bring up a good point. I don't know how old you are. I don't know anything about who you are or what kind of a life you live. I know that if the good Lord gives me 12 years more, I would consider it a real blessing. However, if I'm not here in 12 years, I really worry about what's going to happen during that interim period of time for my grandchildren. And I, like you, wonder about all the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes and the other absolute stupid people that are adhering that we're burning up and the whole world is going to go away in 12 years. There's only one being, and this is my opinion, you can argue it if you want. There's only one being that knows when the end of the world is going to take place, and I go back to our Creator God. And I'm sick and tired of the left acting as God when they're really stupid people.
And I agree with you 100%. I think that what will happen when this doesn't occur the way they say it's going to be just about like when Trump was elected and they said they were all going to move. If that happens, they just can't stand up to what they say.
You really brought up an excellent point this morning, and one that I wished I'd have thought of that earlier. There were so many of these actors and actresses and other so-called VIPs that say, oh, if Trump wins the election, I'm boogieing, I'm packing my suitcase. None of them have taken up residence anywhere in Pakistan or anywhere else. Your point is so well taken. They're nothing but hot air adding to what they think is global warming.
Yep, not a one of them. Okay, thanks, sir.
God bless you, man. Thanks for the point. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The other day I got a telephone call on my cell phone, one of those unknown name, unknown number type things. And the guy was railing about, well, you don't think very much of the younger generation. They're standing up and they're trying to create a better world. Oh, bunk, bogus, and the other B word. When I look at these kids, and I'm not lumping everybody together, I know some millennials that are extremely sharp and great business people, and they've got their heads screwed on straight. But when I look at these kids holding up signs that say, ice out of California, no human is illegal, and railing and prancing around and everything, these kids are absolutely naive. Absolutely destitute of any real knowledge of what's going on in the real world. Caller, I'm going to ask you to stay with me just a minute. I've got to remind everybody, and I mean everybody, about what's happening at Mad River Laser starting on Friday night and going through the weekend. Absolutely, they're going to have a great big sale. Now, the early bird sale at Mad River Laser in Rupert's going to start on Friday night, November 1st. And if you have an email coupon, you better use it there. And then, of course, it's the first Saturday of the month, November 1st. On Saturday, as I almost choked to death, excuse me, and they've got all kinds of great sale items right there. Don't miss it. And they offer brands from Carhartt, Nike, Adidas, Bell Canvas, North Face. And if you mention my name, Zeb Bell, you'll get free digitizing on your product. So, hey, up to a $50 value. You better stop over and see these great folks. Nicole and the rest of folks. I love that store. I really do. At 502 East Street in Rupert, Mad River Laser. Stop over this weekend. Caller, thank you. You're on the air.
I don't want to change the subject unless it's all right, but I have a PBR question and wonder when I might be able to call you back for an answer.
No, go ahead real quick, Adrian. You've been such a faithful listener. I appreciate your call. Go ahead.
Okay. I have some friends that went to a recent PBR rodeo bull riding, and they said that the Brazilian riders could come from Brazil and bring their points with them, but our boys, American PBR, could not go to Brazil and take their points with them. Do you know what they're talking about?
That's interesting that you should mention that, because just last night I was on the phone talking to some people about this, and they were talking about it. I do not know the answer on this. I know the cumulative points that are garnered by riding in PBR competitions here in the United States. They're saying that our top contestants can't go down and compete in their events. Now, this is the way I heard it, and use their points for series championships, whereas the Brazilians can use their points to come up and compete here in extremely big money events, and I'm talking many, many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it didn't seem fair and equitable, but I'm checking into it. I don't know the answer, Adrian. I apologize, but we were talking about that last evening, as a matter of fact.
Fantastic. So, thank you very much.
All right. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Nice lady right there. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Patriotism and being proud of our country is on the wane. I'm really concerned. When I heard yesterday and the day before, Sunday, on a couple of these news shows that 70%, now, wait a minute, I want to stop right there. 70%, depending on the polls, depending on how the questions were asked, depending on who was being asked the question. So I want to clarify a lot of things. I don't give a lot of response and faith to polls normally. Polls are like noses. Everybody should have one. But 70% of millennials said in this one poll that they would vote for socialism/communism here in America. If that doesn't make your blood run rather chilly or chillier on this morning, nothing will. I'm really concerned, and a couple of my good friends and I have talked about this for a long, long time on the radio and then also in person. What is the matter with our education system? What is the matter with our parents today that they are not instilling patriotism and love of this great country at home and then also at school? Now, I'm open for any subject matter on this subject because I just don't understand how these kids, never done anything, never accomplished anything, never been anywhere, have never had to make a payroll, etc., are coming up with the idea, the thought process, that they would vote for socialism and like to have socialism in the United States of America. And you know, one of the things, I was listening to Tucker Carlson last night, and a point was brought up that here these kids are going to school. They're going to college. They're going to Harvard. They're going to all the big schools, USC. They're going to the prima donna schools at a rate and a cost that is enough to break the bank. And when they graduate, really, what do they have? They've got a sheepskin, and they've got an attitude that America is bad, it's evil, it's, oh man, we got to change it, we got to vote for socialism. And I'm sitting there going, what in the world are these colleges akin to? And it sounds to me like it's a cesspool of anti-Americanism that these kids are paying literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars per student to go to these schools and have their minds warped. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Yes, you're right. Parents need to be on their kids more and stop giving them everything, because then these kids think that that's what socialism is, and then we need a whole lot less liberal professors in these colleges. Maybe give them all a C on their paperwork occasionally and say, well, this is what socialism is, you know?
Well, actually, let me expand on that. The professor ought to give all the students a C as average, because according to socialistic values, nobody can achieve or be better than the other. So you're going to college to get nothing but C's. Oh, gee, Mommy and Daddy and Uncle and Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred are so proud.
Exactly. Well, and I had personal experience with this C crap. I transferred schools between my second and third grade year, and I wasn't a socialist teacher, but I was a straight-A student in the old school. I moved to the new school. I would get nothing but C's on my report card, but I'd get hundreds on my tests and all my papers, and my mom asked the teacher why, and she says, well, if I give her A's now, she'll have nothing to work towards. And as a third grader, I was like, if I don't have to work any harder than a C, I'm not going to, and I never took homework home the rest of my school life.
You know, you made a point right here that I think is worthy of a quick discussion, and then I got to pay some bills. As a matter of fact, would you be so kind as to let me do a commercial so I don't fall real behind, and I'll get right back to you?
Yeah.
Would you stay on the line? I'd appreciate that. All right, I'll be right there. Just don't go away. I want to remind everybody, let your house welcome you home with perfect temperatures. The iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat from Lennox, featuring remote control access so you can adjust your home's temperature from anywhere. That's right, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new home comfort system. Keep comfy. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Caller, your point was really, really well taken and deserves a little bit more conversation. At many areas around the United States, especially in New York City with that dipstick mayor, Bill de Blasio, a guy that really needs to have his IQ tested, they're cutting back on funding and the availability of the smarter charter schools for students that are absolutely excellent, and want to excel to go to higher heights. And this is what I'm seeing in education in a lot of areas. We are stymieing these kids, stopping these kids from being excellent with the hopes that the rest of the class can catch up. And so you're hurting the top end, waiting for the rest of the herd to run up and get behind you, and that sometimes, in plain simple English with a slang word, ain't gonna happen.
Exactly. Well, on top of that, too, I'm sorry, but children learn at different rates. And to hold back the kid who is climbing, so to speak, for the ones who are in a plateau to catch up, it doesn't help, because pretty quick that kid who's climbing might plateau and the others are going to catch up. Kids don't cut their teeth at the same time. They don't walk at the same time. They don't talk at the same time. So don't expect every single 5-year-old in that class or 8-year-old or whatever to be on the same academic level.
Amen. Amen. God bless you for your call and your point of interest there. It was very well stated. Thank you for your call. I always look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you. She's 100% right. I heard this about de Blasio the other day. He literally walked by and ignored on the steps of the City Hall in New York. There was about 30 or 40 exceptional students that really are looking for the stars and finding ladders to get there through education. And he stopped all the funding and everything for their schools. And to tell the top, to tell the best, to tell the achievers, to tell the wannabes, oh, well, I'm sorry, there's a ceiling. You can't go any higher because we got to wait for all these other ones to try to catch up. That is absolutely sick and perverted. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Real quick, I want to remind you about Barry Equipment and Rental. And, of course, they've got 3 locations serving you. That's right. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. And when you got a job, you've got a job of lifting, digging, pushing, carrying, grading, leveling. Whoa, I'm telling you, they got the big boys. They've got the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. They've got all the Bobcats of the different sizes and forms. They got it all. They got it all waiting for you. All you've got to do is just stop in and see them today at Barry Equipment and Rental. Great financing programs, great lease programs in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Stop in today. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. So here's all these kids going to all these big money schools, and when they graduate, they have nothing except a lot of debt. And here's a liberal, stupid society of Democrats and those leaning on socialism saying, oh, Johnny and Susie went to these big schools and they've racked up $200,000 worth of debt. Okay, you, the taxpayers, pay for it. What? Yeah, the Bernie Sanders and the Kamala Harrises and the Elizabeth Warrens and others, oh, well, these poor Johnny and Susie, they wanted to be basket weavers, and they went to school, and they ran up $150,000 of debt apiece at each school. Oh, gosh, those poor kids. Let the adults and the taxpayers in the country absorb the debt. Are you kidding me? I don't want to pay anybody else's bills. I shouldn't have to. Neither should you. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And I want to mention this. This is very, very nice of Dr. Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology. They're very thankful to serve local veterans hearing health care and all through the VA Community Care Program. Now, during the week of November 11th through the 15th, veterans stop by their office in Rupert to receive a small gift as a token of their gratitude for your service to America. They're located just north of Minidoka Memorial Hospital in Unit 2, and I urge you to get a hold of them and stop by for a hearing screening appointment at, the number to call, 417-8799. That number again, 417-8799. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Feels a little bit more like winter today. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We do have a 20% chance of snow showers at least until we get to noon. By the afternoon, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a high of 25, plus a little bit breezy, gusts as high as 24 miles an hour out of the northeast. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, gradually becoming clear in the overnight hours. Going to get cold, though. Low of about 5. Winds are going to stay consistent, gusts as high as about 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, expecting a high of 32. Winds are going to be calming down, nice and clear for tomorrow night with a low of 12. By Thursday, sunny and 43, warming up to 45 under sunny skies by Friday. That's what's your weather forecast for Zephyr Duran.
Holy moly, 5, 4 fingers and a thumb. That's cold. Ay. Don't forget Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And for the best of hearing treatment and help to you for your hearing health, get a hold of them today. The number to call, 417-8799. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know what really wrinkles my fur a little bit this morning? Think about this. The other night, at the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros World Series game in Washington, President Trump was there with his lovely wife. And when introduced, over half of the crowd of, 60,000, booed our president. He had just okayed the raid on the terrorist killer and got the terrorist killer, and the terrorist killer was dead. But yet America will not give President Trump any slack or any kudos. When Obama okayed the raid on bin Laden, and bin Laden was killed, America, on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat, praised Obama for doing such. President Trump can't get any slack. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. Change the subject on you and going back to the old subject of paying for school debt. That is deceiving, too. That's a back door to socialism. My son told me that what that is, it's paying for the debt for certain people that are under a certain wage. And if you're succeeding and you're working and you're making above a certain wage, then they won't pay it. The government won't pay it. It's just for, once again, it's a sneaky way of, I think it's socialism. It's just a sneaky way of doing it. And what it is, it's paying for education, for college, college.
Our education system, I think, Dwayne, that you would concur that our education system, our higher education system, colleges and universities, is absolutely in store for a complete wipeout, mop-up, and clean-up. It's absolutely disgusting that the colleges and universities are making literally millions upon millions upon millions of dollars on these students, and they hand them a parchment upon graduation, and these kids stand there going, what do I do now?
Right, and they come out of there indoctrinated to the liberal causes.
Yep.
They concentrate more on liberal issues than what they're supposed to be teaching.
Absolutely.
The professors are the ones that are ruining this country, and I've been saying that for years.
No, I totally agree with your concept. I don't like the passing the buck, and I mean that, the buck or bucks plural, from colleges and universities taking all this money, breaking the back of parents trying to support their kids to go to these schools, and then liberal politicians turning around and looking at Dwayne Wageman and Zeb Bell and saying, you pay for it.
You're right. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that pit bull that was at the door, it left just as you were walking out the door yesterday. Just before you went out the door, the fellow left with it. But what got me is he didn't even have that dog on a leash.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
That's why I did what I did.
No, and that was very kind of you, because Ruby, our little corgi, crossed with a mini Aussie, she thinks that she's a 10-foot-tall German Shepherd. That might not have been good. Thank you very much.
Right, that's what happens with these dogs. They're protecting you, and in protecting you, it gets these other dogs stirred up.
Absolutely.
And I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Dwayne, thank you. And the
pit bull, once it gets a hold of something, it really takes a lot to get rid of it. One guy told me best way to get a pit bull to open its mouth is shove a water hose down its mouth.
Really? I'll have to remember that. I'll have to start packing a fire hydrant on my back. Thanks, Dwayne. God bless you, man. Thanks. Okay. Love that story. Met him again yesterday. I hadn't seen him for a long time, and it was really pleasant. Caller, I've got 2 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Well, I don't know if you know, but if you're, if you receive a award, you will get a $4,000 bonus from the Department of Education. As a teacher in junior high, high school, grade school, I'm assuming. I've researched it some, but not always. But most of this stuff, these teachers are getting these awards are in Boise and Ada County and close by. 50% of them. And the rest of these teachers around here, they are getting, you say to yourself, how do you know that this teacher deserves an award and gets a $4,000 bonus?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know? Do you sit in there and make sure they're doing their job? I mean, who the hell knows that this is right? I mean, who decides?
There needs to be an independent board or whatever that can study the various situations and teachers and classes and what's being taught, etc., before any or all awards are passed out. But it doesn't seem to be that way, does it?
Of course not. And who's got time to go in and sit in on the classes to make sure that the teachers are doing, teaching what they're supposed to? The Constitution, standard, whatever. I can go in.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you that it seems like the great state of Ada and that area of the state seems to command and get what they want and or what is given out, and it's a shame.
Well, it's unfair, but the thing of it is if you go into let's say you go into a government class, and the teacher is on her best behavior, their best behavior, while you're sitting there, and then how do you know what they do when you're not there? What kind of indoctrination is occurring?
I agree with you. Yep. Randy, I got to run and do a commercial, but I'm so glad you called this morning and you brought up a real good point. Thank you, old friend. Take care. Put your igloo up. It's going to snow some more. All right, buddy. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the big fall tire sale. They are committed to offering you the best tire value anywhere. That's right. And these people are so good. They're so smart. All 7 locations. They've all majored in tireology, and they understand. I mean, you go in there and you're looking for tires on your car, your pickup, your trailer, whatever. They've got all the tread designs, all the sizes. They know Tires, and they're having a big fall tire sale right now, and they've been doing the right thing since 1952. Also with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Oh, I'll bet you with the temperature going down to 6 tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of click, 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 click. You better check your battery. They've got the best. Stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. We're going to take a little break right now, and then coming up next hour, we've got American Energy Alliance gentleman Dan Kish, really a sharp, sharp man. And then at 9:30, former United States Congressman from Colorado, Tom Tancredo, and we urge you to stay tuned. Zeb at the Ranch for a Tuesday, October 29th. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Oh, here we are on a blustery, doggone cold Tuesday morning. I mean, 16 degrees out there. Morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a really big fall tire sale going on right now at all 7 locations, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Elite Fitness at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. They are helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, before we go any further, let's have this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Thank you, Western Waste Services. That's really true. They are always at your disposal and mine. And I urge you that if you're cleaning before the holidays, Thanksgiving around the corner, then Christmas, you need a dumpster. You need to really clean out the rooms, the basement, whatever. Well, they've got dumpsters in various sizes. Call them at 734-6969. Say, I need a dumpster. They'll bring one over. You fill it. They'll come and get it. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. 734-6969. You know, yesterday we talked about this very nice lady as she's running for re-election for mayor of Heyburn, and I'm going to say the name correctly today, Cleo Gallegos. Oh, I feel better now. And she wants your vote on November 5th to ensure that Heyburn has a clean, responsible wastewater operation and the water system is protected and provides clean, safe water to all citizens. And she wants to have all the citizens over in Heyburn have unprecedented access to city government with open door policies. She wants your vote on November 5th. Re-elect Mayor Cleo Gallegos, I did it right twice in a row, for mayor of Heyburn on November 5th. Paid for by Cleo Gallegos for mayor. I don't know why, but I just really had a tongue-tying situation yesterday, and I apologize for that. I also want to give a great big shout-out to Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and the staff, and not only Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, but also now Elite Fitness. I mean, they can help you if you're injured, and they can help you if you're healthy and want to stay healthy. There you go. Don't forget to give them a call, and they can help you get back to being you. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. The number to call, 678-1191. I know because I go there. I was there yesterday for another treatment. They really know their stuff and can help you. So please remember Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Wonderful people. Okay, let's see. We did that, we did this, and we did that, and I've got one other good word, and then we're going to go to my good buddy on the line, waiting patiently, I hope, and that's Dan Kish. I want to remind everybody about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. You know, it goes without saying that when there's the passing of a loved one, the whole world around you is absolutely, it's up in the air. You don't know what to do. You don't know the time frames. Please sit back, call Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number, 436-5636. Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, always serving you with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Once again, that number, 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Wow, there is a gentleman that I just absolutely, and when there's a matter of energy or a story of energy, I want to get his take on it. And that, of course, is my good friend with the American Energy Alliance, Dan Kish. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine. I hope you are as well, sir.
Well, let me tell you something. Global warming has really smacked us in the face out here with, the temperature right now is, and it's snowing at the Zeb at the Ranch studio, 16 degrees, and we're not even yet to Halloween.
Well, there you go. There you go. There's your global warming, Zeb. 16 degrees. Come on.
No, I'm serious, man. I woke up this morning and stepped out the door and said, livestock, I think you're going to have to fend for yourself. It's cold out here.
Yeah, I understand. That's a little frost on a pumpkin right there before Halloween, so... You
know, Dan, you and I have talked many, many times on this program, and we've never, unfortunately, had a chance to meet face-to-face and shake hands and sit down and talk. But I get the feeling from certain things that you've said in our conversations that you're a Christian man that really has a lot of values, and I respect that. But I want you to correct me. I said something earlier this morning, and if I'm wrong, correct me. But when you hear all these people come out and they go, oh, we're all going to burn up in 12 years, and you listen to the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes and the Bernies and the Elizabeths and the rest of them saying, oh, we're just absolutely destroying the planet with climate change and everything, I have yet, on any conversation that's been on TV or radio or read in the newspaper, ever heard these people espouse to believing in God.
Well, that's a very interesting subject, Zeb. That's a very interesting subject. It's very astute of you to notice that, because basically there's a belief in God, a higher power, something greater than ourselves, or worshiping the creation itself rather than the Creator, and that's unfortunately, I think what happens with a lot of these situations, and Michael Crichton, who was a very prolific writer until he died early some years back, wrote a book about environmentalism and gave a speech and called modern environmentalism the religion of urban atheists. And I've always sort of ascribed to the belief that that was the piece that I probably should have written myself. If you ever read one of those things and you say, boy, I wish I'd have written that, because that's exactly what I think. And that's kind of what it is. It's people who have don't have any belief system with respect to this, but could somehow feel as though worshiping the creation is more important than worshiping something greater than themselves or the Creator himself. And I'm a little sorry to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway.
You know, Dan, my belief is, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve on this program, and anybody that doesn't like it, they could turn the dial and listen to old Barry Manilow music for all I'm concerned. But I wear my emotions and my beliefs on my sleeve that there is a God that created this great world, and He alone is the controller of the thermostat. And for those that worship Gaia, Mother Earth, etc., whatever you want to say, it really offends me. But really, when they start talking about global warming or climate change, or we've got to get rid of all the people with cars and buses and no more transportation, and we've all got to live with solar and wind power, etc., you never hear any of these people ever say anything about the supreme power maker, if you will, and that's God.
Yeah, I mean, there's a common theme. It replaces, there is a innate desire in humans to feel that they're living for something greater than themselves, and if they're vacant in that department, with respect to believing that there's a God above us all, they resort to worshiping the creation itself. That's why they use words like pristine forest, virgin forest, you name it. Go down. I've heard them all. You know, in a long many years trying to understand exactly where they're coming from with this, but that's part of it, Zeb.
Let me tell you one of the phrases, and it almost makes me chuckle because of their stupidity and their arrogance. Here's the one. Whether it's being used by the United States Forest Service or any controlling government agency trying to tell Americans today, you, Dan Kish, me, Zeb Bell, everybody, oh, well, you can't go in that forest. You can't go there because your human footprint might spoil it for future generations. We got to save it for the kids. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. You're locking me out as a taxpayer so I can't go and enjoy this or see that, and you're telling me you're going to save it for future generations? You're not going to unlock the door. Once it's locked, it's locked.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's the case. And listen, Zeb, we have a good idea of what happens, and it's happening in California right now, when people don't practice the stewardship that we're taught to practice in the Bible by the good Lord. And what happens is they worship their forest to death. They won't cut a tree or thin a tree, and the next thing you know, everything's on fire, and they're all wondering why they're living as though they're in the Stone Age or something. Well, because they brought it on themselves, because they've been worshiping a false god.
You have just really hit the nail on the head there. And, you know, here's something that really bothers me, and it's connected to everything. It's interwoven with what we're talking about this morning. We have in this country the blessings of God Almighty with all the fossil fuels. We've got all the coal for thousands of years. We've got natural gas, and we've got these absolutely stupid, underline the word stupid, people saying we can't use it, and we have to reinvent the wheel and sit there and depend on something like solar only if the sun's shining and wind only if the wind's blowing. How dumb can we get?
Yeah, I mean, and they want us to buy them from China.
Yeah.
Because that's where they make them. Because it destroys the environment in China because they don't do things the way we do in the United States. I mean, mining in the United States is significantly different than anything you'll see in China or Africa or any other place around the world. And because of the stage of their development and all the rest. But so if it's out of sight, if it's out of mind, it's literally out of their mind. And frankly, I think a lot of them are out of their minds to begin with.
Absolutely. We've got a caller with a question or a comment. Go ahead, caller, quickly. You're on the air.
Well, Gavin Newsom was lecturing, Pacific Gas and Electric on how to do business, but because of the government of California, they have restricted the way they did business. and all this environmental things. They can't build a line, they can't repair a line because they're not allowed to go in and do it. And then he lectures them on how to run the business, and then you say to yourself, Californians are moving in here like there's no tomorrow, and then they think they're going to come over here and tell us how to run our state. I'm going to tell you, you want to do things that you shouldn't to them. I'll hang up.
Refer to the caller, please, if you would, Dan. Thank you.
Well, I understand.
Yep.
I do understand. It's maddening. I mean, they can. What happens with a lot of these politicians is they cause the problem, and then when something goes wrong, as it logically always will, because their solutions to things don't work, they're the first to go out there and point the finger at someone else, you know. And what's the old story about if you're pointing a finger at somebody else, you're pointing two back at yourself?
Yep. Absolutely. You know, Idaho Power, we've talked about Idaho Power with you on this segment before, and their incompetency and their belligerence, both those words applicable to them, for wanting to go 100% clean energy in less than 20 some odd years. And they won't answer questions. They won't come on this program. They won't answer questions about the who, what, why, where, and how come, and how much. And yet they go on with their little parade about we've got to go all green energy. And when you see stories in the paper like what took place in our own paper this morning, Dan, here's the headline: Rainy Day for Solar. And the subheadline says, panel owners could lose money. And then the first two paragraphs read as follows, and then I want you to respond. Solar panels could soon make less financial sense for Idaho homeowners. A settlement between Idaho Power and a handful of parties, including the Sierra Club and the Idaho Clean Energy Association, would pay solar panel owners less for generated electricity if approved by the Idaho PUC. There you go, Dan.
Yeah, you know what's going on, I think, Zeb? I'm not familiar exactly with this, but this is happening in a lot of parts of the country. The fact of the matter is, for those folks who have solar panels on their roof that are plugged into the grid, there are agreements that actually pay them more than the electricity is worth. They pay them at a retail price for a wholesale product. So, and that's because of bad government and bad decisions being made by legislatures and local folks who are dealing with that. And so basically, some elderly lady who's having trouble paying her bill on a fixed income is subsidizing somebody who's trying to make themselves feel good, virtue signal about putting up solar panels on their roof. They're paying, in some cases, up to 3 times as much as them.
That's right.
As they would for alternative forms of power. And nobody knows about this. This is all part of the big secret, the big, the big goings-on between all the people who are washing each other's backs. I'm telling you, it stinks to high heaven.
And you just nailed it. You just nailed it, because later on in the same story, it just reverberates what you just said, that customers without panels are effectively subsidizing those with panels. I mean, if people would sit down and just say, wait a minute, what is going on with green energy? What's going on against the efficient energy sources we now currently have, thanks to the good Lord above? And why are these Forrest Gumps allowed to run companies that are breaking the average individual? It just doesn't make sense.
Yep, it's called net metering. You can familiarize yourself with a net metering. They've got a fancy word for everything, which is just a way to cover up a lie, basically. But that's what's happening. Yeah, you got folks sitting in Boise, who moved from California, and they're feeling good about themselves, and then everybody else is picking up the tab for them, virtue signaling. It's like having to pay for somebody else's bumper sticker to make them feel good about themselves, you know?
Yeah, I do, and it almost makes you wonder about the CEOs and the leaders of these various corporations. I'm beginning to wonder that they sit behind their desks and say, "Oh, goody, we're going to the zoo today." I don't think they're creative enough to understand the problem that they are messing with.
Well, ultimately, you know, somebody's going to find out about this. People are finding about it. This article is a good example. And when that happens, people are going to be upset. They're wondering why their bills are going up. Well, they're going up even though they say, oh, this free energy from all these windmills and solar panels and everything else. Come to find out, no, it isn't. As a matter of fact, I'm subsidizing somebody who makes a heck of a lot more money than I do, and I don't have any voice in it. Nobody's asked me. And it's not just the companies. The politicians have got to take ownership of this. They're the ones that did this, Zeb. They're the ones that let them in to pick your pocket for these solar panels.
How do we do this, though? I've got to ask you this question. I've only got a couple of minutes left. How do you sit down with these politicians that'll smile to you and then turn around and look to somebody behind them and they'll roll their eyes to the heavens? How do you get them to understand that, hey, wait a minute, big boy, you work for us, the people, not just for yourself or for that solar panel company? How do we get them to understand that it's about time we want to crack the whip?
Well, I've always said that real Americans are too nice. I mean, these people work for you. You pay their salaries. They're supposed to be public servants. They're not supposed to be public bosses. They're not supposed to be ordering you around and telling you what to do and jacking up people's bills to a point where they can't pay them. That's not what this is about. They work for you, and they ought to be reminded of that. And people have to, honestly get in people's faces and say enough's enough. This is terrible. There's no reason to be doing this. They aren't saving the earth by putting these solar panels in. They're making a statement about their virtue. Well, other people do that by donating their time and money to volunteer groups, or giving blood or doing something like that. They don't ask their neighbors to subsidize them.
And the other point real quick on this is the arrogancy. The arrogancy and the absolutely holier-than-thou attitude of like our Idaho Power that will not even consent to an interview to answer questions about clean energy. The arrogancy is just, it reeks. It just tells everybody, and it should tell everybody, I'm better than you, and Idaho Power is in control. That's sickening.
Yeah, well, it is, but as long as the politicians let them get away with that, because remember, the only people they answer to are these politicians. And as long as the politicians let them get away with that, they'll get away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
I look forward to Tuesdays for two things. Number one, you're going to get me up and get me going and get my blood boiling. And number two, you always have great information. Dan Kish, my buddy, with the American Energy Alliance. God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. God bless you right back, and your listeners, and y'all stay warm now.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good guy right there, Dan Kish, and I appreciate him being on the program. Right now, I want to remind you about Lennox. Absolutely. They've got the iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat from Lennox, featuring remote control so you can adjust your home's temperature from anywhere. That's right. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox all teamed up, offering $1,600 in rebates, up to $1,600 in rebates on a new home comfort system. Make yourself comfy. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Want to also remind you about a whoop-de-doo great big happening coming up on Friday night at Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. Holy moly, it's one night only. This great big special sale. They're going to offer free gifts for the first 50 customers that come railing through the door. Sale starts at 4, goes till 9. They're going to have free pop Papa Kelsey cinnamon rolls. Oh, they're good. And don't forget, you can toss a bean bag to get a prize. They got great prizes. And there's going to be factory reps there on hand to answer all your questions. And for what you buy, 18 months, same as cash on approved credit. Whoa! What are you waiting for? Get there Friday night at Redder's Showcase from 4 to 9 for this great big sale. 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. You know, while we got just a moment here, I also want to remind you that this weather's not going to last, I hope. It's going to warm up a little bit, so you can get outside and still enjoy a lot of the fall, I hope, on a four-wheeler or a side-by-side. But if it does last and it all turns to snow, I know a place that you need to go today, and that's Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They've got all the snowmobiles, they've got all the snow bikes, and I'm telling you, on November 9th, that's coming up in just a matter of a few days, they're going to have a special open house over there where you can go in and just see all these great fun toys. Absolutely. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They've got a great accessory department and a great service department to keep you running. Don't forget, they're open Monday through Friday 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 4. Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Really good people. And also talking about good people, and I was over there yesterday, and I saw Todd and the rest of the crew at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Now, I'll tell you what, you talk about diligence. You talk about people that really care. You talk about people that want to sit there and make sure that everything is okay. They dot the I's, cross the T's when it comes to your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more. And all you need to do is make an appointment. Call them at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. Get a hold of them today. One more good word, and then our guest won't fall asleep on me, I hope. I want to remind you, too, about our friends over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They're having a ripping big, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to save that for a few minutes, and we're going to talk to our guest, and then we'll do that ad later on, because I've got something special to say about that. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and we're going to be talking to a former United States congressman, serves on the advisory board, and member of We Build the Wall, and he also has the book called, regarding the Bush era, the book is called Mortal Danger, The Battle for America's Border and Security. How true. And this man has really put himself on the firing line, standing up for the protection of our borders. Former Congressman Tom Tancredo, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you doing today?
Well, it's cold here, Tom. What's it doing in Colorado?
Oh man. It's, I'm looking out on my patio. There's about 1.5 foot of snow. Came in overnight. It's going to be down to 2 tonight and a little colder tomorrow, they say. So things could be worse. You could be here.
Well, I tell you what, though, we're not that far away. We don't have all the snow yet, but we're expecting a low tonight of about 5. So as far as putting on the parka and stepping outside and saying, no, I don't want to, we're on the same keel there.
Oh, man, I'll tell you. I have to tell you, this is like the first blast of winter right here, and I have to tell you, I'm already tired of it. But, hey, what are you going to do?
You know, I tell you what, Tom, I've got to ask you this. I want to get into some various topics here this morning, especially with immigration, illegal immigration, and the wall. But I want to ask you this. Being a former congressman, when you look at the television or pick up the newspaper or listen to the radio, isn't this almost a total embarrassment of stupidity shown by the Democrats with this impeachment procedure?
I'll tell you, it shows you a number of things. The depth of the hatred that exists. Corey Lewandowski, who ran at least part of Trump's campaign, was called before a House committee a while back. And I think one of the Republicans said something like, why do you think these guys are doing this? I mean, it's crazy. And he said, it's because America more than they like. No, I'm sorry, they hate Donald Trump more than they like America. And that is absolutely true. And this is a perfect example. What they're doing is idiotic, but it stems from a visceral hatred of the guy that's in the White House. Now, why? Well, there's a lot of reasons. And also, by the way, there's another reason why they're into it, and that's because there's nothing else. They have no other issue they can possibly come up with to try and defeat him in 2020. So they're trying to defeat him before 2020. So those are the two reasons I think that we're looking at what we're looking at.
You know, Tom,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You were in office, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, when Obama ordered the raid to get bin Laden. And I believe that both sides of the aisle praised President Obama at that time for going ahead and nodding his head and saying, let's go get him and make sure that there's an end to this story. Everybody praised him. However, Donald Trump okayed on a very secretive mission the same thing to get all of a sudden I forgot his last name, Baghdadi. They get the guy, and the president goes to the World Series game night before last and gets booed by a large share of the audience. What is going on here?
Well, if you go into the den of iniquity that we call Washington, D.C., you shouldn't be surprised at any sort of reaction from them. I mean, look at the people who populate that area. It is not America, thank God. I mean, there are certainly pockets of places where Trump is disliked as much, but generally speaking, it's not Washington. It's not like Washington, D.C. It's a different sort of place. It's a very I tell you, I really do not miss one thing about Washington. I left there my own accord. After 10 years in Congress, it was enough. I don't even like going back there for certain events that I'm invited to. It's just a place. It's got a feeling of hostility and ugliness about it. Has had it for a long time. They're elitists who look at the rest of the world, and certainly the rest of America, as, flyover country, people that don't have the slightest idea of what really goes on. So I'm sort of not surprised. And because by this time, Donald Trump has now survived 3 years of the most horrendous, incredible degradation through the media that I have ever seen in my life. Never stops, 24/7. It doesn't matter what he does. He arranges and is pushing for the murder of one of the greatest tyrants still that was alive on the planet, in al-Baghdadi, and gets no credit because it's Donald Trump. And so we got to hope that what we saw in the game, in the World Series game, is only a microcosm. I mean, it's not a microcosm, I'm sorry, of what is bigger in America. It's an aberration, is what it is. At least I believe that, and I hope that.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a quick comment. Go ahead, caller. Very fast, please. I'm short on time in this segment. Go, please.
Well, they were saying that the people that went to that game, of the Nationals game, were lots of elites that had expensive tickets. So it was a swamp. We have a congressman from Idaho. His name is Mike Simpson, and he's a gutless wonder. And I'm sick of him. And he never does anything. And he loves Washington, D.C., and he apparently doesn't think the way you do. And I asked some people, how evil is it back there? And some of them don't seem to think it is. But you just described it as being dark and whatever it is you said. And so you're right, it's terrible. But I think the fact that Minnesota might flip, New Mexico might flip for Trump and whoever else, out here in the heartland, we understand Donald Trump and we like him. I'm hanging up.
Respond to the caller, please, Tom, if you would.
Couldn't say it better.
Let me ask you this, and then I want to get into your book and also the situation on the border. But Nancy Pelosi, she was all bent out of shape. I know a lot of it was for politics, etc. But she was all out of shape because the raid was going on without her knowing about it. She wasn't informed as to the mechanics of the raid, etc. And I said on my program yesterday, it's a darn good thing that the Democrats, Adam Schiff, etc., didn't know about the plans for that raid. There would have been leaks, and our soldiers would have been put in harm's way.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I wouldn't tell them anything. I worry about the people they've got on some of the committees, of course. The Intelligence Committee, people who get briefings that, and I'm just hoping and praying that the people coming in to brief them are not giving them information that they could use because they're not trustworthy. They would do anything, and I mean anything. First of all, they don't like this country. You have to understand and believe that because it's true. They do not like the America that you and I grew up in, the America that the founders put together. Therefore, they will justify in their own minds doing anything to get rid of it, to turn us into, to do what Obama said over and over again. He wanted to thoroughly transform America. What do you think he meant by that? You know, and so when you realize what their motivation is, you recognize that nothing is beyond the possibility when you talk about what they would do to harm this country. And so even if they gave information to ISIS and it cost American lives, they would rationalize it by saying, well, it's in the long run better because we'll get rid of Donald Trump and we'll have a better America, their kind of America, a socialist America. And so, yeah, I am so happy that they didn't know. I wouldn't tell them anything. And as I say, I just worry about the people that are on the committee. Some of them I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw them, especially in terms of national security issues. They're bad people. I mean, I know this may sound hyperbolic, but the reality is these folks have expressed their disdain for America. It's not as if I'm, just interpreting their actions. No, it's their words on top of it. So, no, I fear for the country so much, and I pray to God that Donald Trump is, I hope that he is healthy and remains safe. And when I say that, I'm telling you, they would do anything to end this, because Donald Trump is the first, the only president that has actually begun to not only put a stop to that leftward movement they've been pushing for 50 years, but he is beginning to actually reverse it. The Supreme Court nominees, the deregulation of industry, all of these things are beginning to erode the progress that was made for 50 years. And it didn't matter who was Republican was in president or Congress was in control. It didn't matter. That's the way we move. And they thought it was always going to be that way. But Donald Trump is the first one who has actually said, no, it's not. And he's doing something about it. That's why they hate him so much. That's why.
Tom, I think you will concede also that it's not just politics. It's not just politicians. It's also a very degraded and going downhill fast education system in this country, that where 70% of millennials have been polled and they said that they would vote for socialism/communism in America. Our education system is really lacking in making these kids realize that we live in the greatest country in the world.
Oh, so true. Just like we were saying earlier, how could we be surprised at the way that even the people in Washington, D.C. at the game treated him when, in fact, the media has been what they've been for 3 years. And then you add to it just what you've said. Absolutely true. I'll never forget going to a high school, and I was still in Congress, and there was a brand new high school opened up here in my district, in a wealthy part of my district in which I do not live, but a beautiful school, I mean, Taj Mahal type school, okay? And the kids driving their BMWs in, and tan from skiing on the slopes of Vail and Aspen over the weekend. And so they bring them in. It hasn't even had a senior class yet. Brand new school, beautiful building. And they bring them into the auditorium, and I said, and the teachers lined up on the side, and the kids in the middle, 200-300. And I started talking, and I said, gosh, this school is so beautiful. I said, this is a great school. Oh, yeah, they applauded. It was wonderful. This guy, how's your team? Great team, right? Oh, yeah, no, they hadn't won a game in 6 months. Didn't matter. It was their team. They loved it. Then I said, and what about this country? What a great country we live in. Dead silence.
Oh,
just
my.
Staring at me.
Oh, my.
And this went on, and I kept pushing it. And I said, hey, this is not a trick question. Don't you live in the greatest country in the world? Don't you believe it? Don't you love it? They just stare at me. Then they start looking at the teachers like, oh, my gosh, what am I supposed to say here? And I said, never mind them. I said, I just can't get over. And I kept pushing it. Maybe about 10 students timidly raise their hand when I say, do you like America? And I taught for 10 years, and so I've seen that before, this reaction where you raise your hand very timidly, and it's like, okay, but don't call on me, right? And so they didn't, and the thing is, I don't think they hated America. And they were unable, they were simply intellectually unable to affirm the proposition that it's a good place. Because what if I were to ask them, why? They say, yes, I do love America. What if I said, why? None of them could give me an answer because none of them have been taught of the value of America, understand the history of America, understand how different it is than any place in the world. And so I can hardly blame them because, how do you blame people who have been held in ignorance all of their life?
Absolutely.
In schools. I blame those and I said, I don't know if I have time to disabuse you of all the junk you've read in these textbooks or heard from these people. And I pointed to these teachers. And I said, but I got to tell you this, just think of this, please, one thing. If they open the gates all over the world and let people go, they only run one way. Nobody escapes from the west to the east.
Yeah.
Nobody runs from the west to, say, Pakistan for a better life. It's all the other way around. What does that tell you? And I tried to leave him with that. I have no idea whether it made any impression or not, but I'll never forget it.
Oh, it's a great story. As a matter of fact, you brought tears to my eyes listening to that, and I think it dovetails right into your book in some regards. In Mortal Danger, the battle for America's border and security. Where are we right now, Tom? I mean, your battle over the many, many years was for the support of our border security, build a wall, and make sure that we know who's here, should be here, or not. Well, where are we today, in your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10? Are we making things better? Do we know more about the terrorists and all the illegal aliens? What's going on?
No, absolutely, we are better. We're 10 times better. I ran for president in 2007, the Republican nomination for president, and I was able to actually get on the debates and stuff because I had an issue, and certainly wasn't because I was just so wonderful, but I was the only person talking about it, and even though I certainly never, even for a millisecond, anticipated being nominated or elected, I was trying to force the people on that stage to deal with the issue and to even utter the words border security. It was not easy, let me tell you. One never did. A guy by the name of John McCain, he never would. He never would talk about it, never would acknowledge that we needed it. Well, those days are gone, thank God. I mean, I was in from February till December of 2007 when I finally said, well, we can pull the plug on this thing. I've done all I can. And I will tell you that I look around today, and yes, it is a major issue. Now, there's about 120 members of the Freedom Caucus, and they talk about this issue all the time. And the President of the United States has made it a number one issue. And we are building a wall. And, we're doing it. We buildthewall.us. People should go there and look at what we did. And, I mean, I say we, I'm just a member of the board, but it was a wonderful, wonderful accomplishment. And so, and there's probably, and I believe there will be 500 miles of new wall by the end of the year. And so I think that's all incredible, and the rules he's put into place, most of them, of course, have been blocked by liberal judges, but many have succeeded, been improved even at the Supreme Court level. So, yeah, things are better. They're not great. I wish we had E-Verify. I wish we had mandated E-Verify for every business in America, that everybody would have to check the Social Security number, the validity of the Social Security number of the person they're hiring. That would be a big, big, big step in the right direction. But, hey, I'll take what we've got.
Look, one final thought, and I wanted to ask you this the last time you were on my program. As you study what's going on with the Democratic debates and the Democratic possible nominees and the situation of the party, the Democratic Party, against Donald Trump and everything he stands for, are you afraid for us, the United States, in 2020?
Well, of course, because no one knows the depths to which they will go. And I mean, if they can arrange, if they had enough power, for instance, through Soros and other huge megalopolis-type, huge mega millionaires to actually affect the markets, they'll do it. If they can do, because of course they think and know that that's a major accomplishment of the Trump administration to have it as robust an economy as we've got. And I also worry, I say this again, I worry, and I'm going to pray for Donald Trump, because they would do anything.
I want to thank you, and I mean thanks from the bottom of my heart, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on our program. Former United States Congressman Tom Tancredo, I have the utmost respect for this man and his thoughts, and he's the author of the book called In Mortal Danger, The Battle for America's Border and Security. Tom, please come back soon. God bless you. Thank you so much.
And you and your audience. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Wow. I mean, that lays it out. When you listen to someone like him that has been there and done that and can relate to what's going on, it just gave me shivers up and down my back when he was talking about that high school and asked the students, made the statement about how great America was and nobody wanted to say anything. Oh, we're in trouble. And it goes all the way down to the kindergarten level on up. We need help. Right now, let's go to the weather forecast. And the weather brought to you this hour by some friends of ours and yours, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. They are the professionals. They really are. They can help you, your family, and your business with the best, underline the word best, of all the tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning. The list goes on and on. They know and they can help you. Please, they've got offices in Burley and Rupert. Make an appointment today. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Feels a little bit more like winter today. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We do have a 20% chance of snow showers at least until we get to noon. By the afternoon, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a high of 25. Plus a little bit breezy, gusts as high as 24 miles an hour out of the northeast. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, gradually becoming clear in the overnight hours. Going to get cold, though. Low of about 5. Winds are going to stay consistent, gusts as high as about 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, expecting a high of 32. Winds are going to be calming down, nice and clear for tomorrow night with a low of 12. By Thursday, sunny and 43, warming up to 45 under sunny skies by Friday. That's what's your weather forecast for Zephyr Ranch.
And I got to turn the microphone on. sitting here talking to myself. And thank you very much, Gina, for that weather forecast brought to everybody by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Offices at 1710 Overland in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. The best at what they do in providing accounting services to you. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Thank you very much. Holy cow, we've got Dr. History in the house, and he's going to be in the studio in just a few minutes. I want to remind you, too, about what's going on over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. They've got a great big harvest sale going on. Yep, 40% off on all furniture, mattresses, dining room sets, motion furniture, bedroom groups, and more. Oh, my goodness. Let me just throw this at you. They got us beautiful, beautiful pictures of many of the great sale items, and like a sofa, regularly $759, now just $399. Well, how about this? A regular 7-piece bedroom set. Listen to this. Was $1679, now just $999. I'd get in the truck, I'd get in the car, I'd run, I'd put on my jogging shoes, I'd get over there right now. No money down, no interest up to 48 months on approved credit. You'd better stop in and see them today. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Really nice people serving you. Absolutely. Oh, by the way, there's a great big sale that's going to be coming up starting on Friday night and going through Saturday, and it's going to be over at Mad River Laser. Yep, it's their great big first of the month sale. Listen to this. They've got, on Friday night, they're going to start with the early bird sale, and then on Saturday, of course, they're going to have great Christmas home decor items on sale, and they've got coupons for 25% off. Oh, my goodness. And business embroidery, listen to this. Christmas orders are already underway, and if you want to give somebody an embroidered Christmas gift from Carhartt, Nike, Adidas, Bell Canvas, North Face, mention my name, and you'll get free digitizing up to a $50 value. Zeb Bell, yep, save money at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert for a great big sale coming up this next weekend. Well, the king has arrived. His entourage is sitting out by his coach, pulled by 6 black stallions as they came down Highway 30, stopping traffic so that they could roll out the red carpet for him, and he'll be coming up this next half hour, and that's Dr. History. What are you doing over there besides jiggling my table? He's like a little kid with an erector set. He's got to keep playing with something all the time. I get the biggest kick out of you. Oh, he's dog-earing all of his pages so that he knows where to go and you know when to turn. I see. Okay. It's called preparation. Thank you. We're going to listen to Dr. History and his preparation. Good thing it's not Preparation H. And that'll be coming up this next hour at 10:06. We'll send it over to Wheels. We'll be right back. Oh, I tell you what, Dr. History and I get to visiting, and it's like a couple of old podnas sitting around the campfire, and we just don't know when to hush up. Well, the music starts. Here I am. Zeb at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a big fall tire sale right now. Stop in and see any one of the 7 locations. Let them help you. And don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, I also want to remind you, too, about what's going on with Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. And they've teamed up with the iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat that features remote control access so you can adjust your home's temperature from any place. Check it out today. Ramsey Heating and Electric, along with Lennox, offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new home comfort system system. Stay comfortable. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today at 678-0459. Also, real quick, I want to remind you about Redder Showcase. I told you, it's Friday night. I'm guaranteeing you everybody's going to be running over there at 4 o'clock till 9 o'clock Friday night. They're going to have a great big sale at 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. Free gifts to the first 50 customers that open the door. Sale from 4 to 9. Papa Kelsey cinnamon rolls, and you can toss the bean bag to win prizes. They're going to have factory representatives on hand. Holy cow! And you can win some really nice stuff. Plus, up to 18 months, same as cash on approved credit for all the items you buy. Get in there. Redder Showcase this Friday night, 2611 Overland Avenue in Burley. Absolutely. Well, it's that time. Here he is, just stepped out of the coach and left his robe in the coach with the 6 Stallions and the driver. Dr. History, good morning.
Good morning, Zeb.
How are you?
You're going to need a buffalo robe today.
It's cold out there.
Oh, it's cold.
It's too early.
It is, and the roads, some of them are pretty slick. They're snow-covered.
Really?
In town, in Burley, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so.
Well, don't try to pull those donuts.
No, I won't.
Okay. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, several years ago I told about Geronimo during his heyday, so to speak, and I'm going to talk about Geronimo in his later years, the things that he went through.
After he was captured?
Right, yeah. And I've got some quotations of him that I think are pretty accurate. And I'm going to start with this one. Here's what he said. I sold my photographs for 25 cents and was allowed to keep 10 cents of this for myself. I also wrote my name for 10, 15, or 25 cents, as the case might be, and kept all of that money. I often made as much as $2 a day, and when I returned, I had plenty of money, more than I had ever owned before. So anyway, when the Apaches were transferred from Alabama to Fort Sill, Oklahoma in 1896, Geronimo had been a prisoner of war for about 10 years. And in May of 1904, Geronimo is invited to the Louisiana Purchase Exposition being held in St. Louis. Now, he's offered $1 a day, but he settles on $100 a month, and he stays at the fair for 6 months. Now, so $600, that's... Back then, that's a lot of money. Now, Geronimo when he's there, he's accompanied everywhere by 2 armed soldiers who stand on either side of him. The effect kind of creates the feeling that this is a warrior and that he's still dangerous, even though he's about 75 or 76 years old. And in spite of, or perhaps because of the, quote, prisoner of war trappings, Geronimo is becoming quite a celebrity, as he puts it.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be, in your opinion, almost minimizing him?
Yeah, and as I go along, you'll see that a little bit as we go. But it's interesting because he says, quote, many people in St. Louis invited me to come to their homes, but my keeper always refused. In other words, the 2 guards didn't go. But he would go to people's homes and I guess have dinner and things like that. So anyway, he goes on, he says, quote, I am glad I went to the fair. I saw many interesting things and learned much of the white people. They are a very kind and peaceful people. During all the time I was at the fair, no one tried to harm me in any way. Had this been among the Mexicans, I am sure I should have been compelled to defend myself often.
Let me ask you, how articulate, and I use that word with caution, but how articulate was he with the English language?
I really don't know, but based on... And again, I don't know who wrote down what he said.
That's what my problem is with this conversation.
Right.
Is this first person or is it written by second person?
That's the question I don't know. But I am going to quote him, and I'm hoping that that's fairly accurate. Anyway, but, okay, so here we are, March 5th, 1905. Geronimo is invited to ride in Teddy Roosevelt's inaugural parade. The Army gives him a check for $171 before he leaves to pay for his traveling expenses. Okay, now Geronimo takes the check and deposits $170 into his bank account. So he's got a bank at this point, and leaves for Washington, D.C. with $1 in his pocket.
One.
He is not in need of cash, though, because all the way to the Capitol, at every stop of the train, he sells his autographs as fast as he can write his name. And when he runs out of photographs, he sells his hat. Then he sells the buttons off his coat. And when the train leaves the station, Geronimo pulls out his suitcase, sews more buttons on his coat, buys a new hat at the next stop.
You just said something earlier, though, that really lends me to think that he was educated. You said he signed his name.
Right. Yeah, and I would be curious what that looks like, and I have not seen what exactly that would look like. So, but anyway, when he gets to Washington, Geronimo asks where his horse is. He says, "I need a horse," and he's told they'll find him one. So they find him a horse to ride. So the inaugural parade moves along Pennsylvania Avenue with Teddy in the lead, wearing his silk hat and grinning his big tooth grin. And there goes.
And then,
phone.
of course, Teddy Roosevelt's phone went off right during the inaugural parade, and it's almost indicative of what happens hundreds of years later with Dr. History.
I thought I turned that off. Back to the story. The inaugural parade moves along Pennsylvania Avenue with Teddy in the lead, wearing his silk hat and his big tooth grin. Next comes the Army Band, and then comes 6, quote, wild Indians, and this was supposed to kind of be a before and after demonstration with the, quote, wild Indians, followed by a unit of the well-dressed, disciplined, what they called the Carlisle Cadets, showing off the government's success in guiding the Indians to be civilized. But actually, Geronimo, he steals the show. He's the main attraction for this parade. Now, no one even takes a picture of the other people or remembers them in the parade, but Geronimo is a huge hit, and he holds himself tall and erect, quite calm. He's self-possessed. Men along the route throw their hats in the air, and they shout, "Hooray for Geronimo!" and public hero number 2. Kind of an interesting way this happened.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, when Roosevelt was asked, quote, "Why did you select Geronimo to march in your parade, Mr. President?" And they said, "He's the greatest single-handed murderer in American history."
Oh, my goodness.
And he said, quote, "I wanted to give the people a good show." Kind of an
You know,
interesting
I'm
comment.
sorry, but this whole thing is just sounding too dehumanizing for me. I just don't like it.
Here's to me, an amazing...
It's not showing respect at all.
A military leader trying to protect his family, his friends,
Yeah.
his posterity, everything. But anyway, it was a good PR move, especially because they had 2 armed soldiers guarding Geronimo at this Louisiana Purchase Exposition.
Now, was that for real? They really were guarding him?
Oh, not really.
But what I'm saying is, was he in custody? Was he incarcerated? All of this?
no.
Well, then why do they have to play it up that way?
Just for show. Just for show. And the intent, it illustrated to the public that he was, quote, still dangerous. Right. He's 75, 76 years old. Okay. So now we move a little further.
You're not dangerous, and you're a lot younger than that.
True. March 9th, 1905. A little later, Geronimo and a group of old-time warriors visit the White House, and this is his chance to appeal to the highest authority for a return to Arizona. They want to go back to their homeland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
And here's what he says, and again, I hope this is accurate. He said, quote, "When the soldiers of the Great White Chief drove me and my people from our home, we went to the mountains. When they followed us, we slew all we could. We said we would not be captured. No, we starved, but we killed. I said that we would never yield, for I was a fool. So I was punished, and all my people were punished with me. The white soldiers took me and made me a prisoner far from my own country. Great Father," referring to the president, "other Indians have homes where they can live and be happy. I and my people have no homes. The place where we are kept is bad for us. We are sick there and we die. White men are in the country that was my home. I pray you to tell them to go away and let my people go there and be happy. Great Father, my hands are tied as with a rope. My heart is no longer bad. I will tell my people to obey no chief but the Great White Chief. I pray you to cut the ropes and make me free. Let me die in my own country, an old man who has been punished enough and is free." Now, that's kind of a touching.
Man, I tell you what, I'm having a hard time with this one because it just shows to me that the Roosevelt era and administration was very cruel to this man.
So let me tell you what he said. Roosevelt answered him, and here's what he said. He said, quote, "I do not think I can hold out any hope for you. That is all I can say. Geronimo, except that I am sorry and have no feelings against you." So that's kind of the way that ended.
Was there some kind of a bill or law or something passed to keep him from going to Arizona?
Well, eventually things do change.
I see.
Eventually. So now we're June 11th, 1905, a little farther. The National Editorial Association holds its annual convention in Guthrie, Oklahoma. An excursion by train brings the visiting editors to the 101 Ranch, where they witness, quote, the tiger of the human race and the Apache terror in person.
That's disgusting.
Geronimo. So he is the main feature of the morning events, and he shoots a buffalo provided by Charles Goodnight's J.A. Ranch in the Texas Panhandle, and he shoots it from a car. Okay? This is where there's a photograph of Geronimo behind the wheel of a Cadillac, of a car.
I have seen that picture.
And anyway, the buffalo he shoots is served to the guests that evening in the afternoon. But there's a song written by a guy named Michael Martin Murphy.
Yeah.
It's called Geronimo's Cadillac.
Yes.
And he wrote that because of that photograph of Geronimo sitting behind the wheel of this 1903 automobile. So now a little further into the fall, October 1905, Lawton School Superintendent Stephen M. Barrett approaches Geronimo about writing his life story. Now, Geronimo agrees on the stipulation that Barrett can ask no questions. Geronimo also refuses to be questioned about details or to add another word. He simply says, "Write what I have spoken." He didn't want anybody changing or editing what he was going to say.
Why no questions, though? It's pretty hard, almost impossible, to write about something without asking questions.
And he had a reason. Probably, I'm only going to guess that maybe it's because he didn't want to be trapped into talking about something he didn't want to talk about. So anyway, he struck a deal with Geronimo, this Barrett guy did, and Barrett would get half of anything that the author gets. Well, Barrett tries to get the Army's permission, but the officer in charge, a guy by the name of Purington, he refuses, saying Geronimo should be hanged instead of being spoiled by so much attention from civilians.
You're kidding.
So there was still a lot of animosity towards Geronimo.
Yeah.
Well, Barrett finally appeals directly to President Teddy Roosevelt, and after a series of communications through the channels, he jumped through all the hoops. Permission is approved on the stipulation that the manuscript has to be submitted to the Army before publication. So they want to look this over, and so I guess that's what they did. Anyway, so now we're July 4th, 1907, a couple of years later. After attending a parade and a picnic in Cache, Oklahoma, Geronimo starts home in the evening, but turns south and hides in the timber, and they're kind of speculating that he might have been drunk.
Now, he had to be, nearly 80, right?
Yeah, we're looking at pretty close to 80 by now, 78, 79. So, but anyway, the newspapers kind of have a field day reporting that he is on his way to join the still hostile Apaches in Old Mexico. And actually, it says here right now, he's 84 years old now.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, the soldiers find him the next day and take him back to Fort Sill. So now we're a few years later, 1909, February 12th. Not far from Geronimo's house, there's a Mrs. Josie sees his horse saddled on the bank of a creek. Well, she and some others investigate. They find Geronimo lying partly in the water, and they figure that he was probably thrown from his horse on the ride home and has been lying in the cold water unconscious all night. Now, some think that maybe an owl spooked his horse, bucked the old warrior off into this cold stream, and probably knocked him out. So now we're February, a few days later. A severe cold has turned into pneumonia. One of the scouts has told the post surgeon, who sends an ambulance to Geronimo's house, and this poor old bedridden war leader is surrounded by about a dozen Apache women who refuse to let him go to what they call, quote, the death house, which is the Apache name for the hospital. Okay. Finally, returning with a scout, the ambulance brings the old warrior in. The post surgeon expects him to die within the next few hours, but Geronimo asks that his son Robert and his daughter Eva be brought to him. Okay. Well, for 2 days, his spirit refuses to give up until he could see his children one more time. Well, they have not arrived, and at 6:15 a.m., he closes his eyes and surrenders for the last time. So, February 18th, 1909, a few days later, the funeral is at 3 o'clock. The Army grants a half-day work furlough for the Apache men so they can attend. Robert and Eva, his kids, finally arrive by train.
Oh.
And the funeral procession starts for the cemetery. Now, before the grave is filled, relatives place his riding whip and blanket in the casket. Now, before he died, Geronimo had told his wife to tie his horse to a certain tree and to hang his belongings on the east side of his grave. And in 3 days, he would come and get them. So that was his request. Now, here's something fascinating, Zeb. When his bank account is checked, it's revealed that Geronimo has more than $10,000 in the bank at the time of his death.
Oh, my
Which in
goodness.
today's dollars would be probably more than $250,000 back then.
Yeah.
Now, so I know we're about out of time. Geronimo had at least 10 wives. Some historians say 12. Now, in the Indian culture, there were some Indian cultures that it was strictly monogamous, one wife. A lot of other cultures, it was okay to have 2, 3, 4, 5 wives. And as I think about that, you think about the warriors that died, there were probably a lot of widows and women that did not have husbands. So in some ways, I think that probably was a way of taking care of some of the...
But you mentioned that he referred to his children as Robert and Eva.
Right.
Christian names,
Yes,
not
yeah.
Indian names.
Well, okay, so his last wife, her name was Zaya, something like that, gave him a daughter, Eva, and a son, another son named Fenton, okay? Now, Eva, this little girl of his, and this is when he was like 66 years old. He had this little girl, Eva. Man, he loved this little girl. He was the apple of his eye, she was, and he worried about her, and he doted on her. He just... But when she was about 16, she started showing some signs of an illness of some kind. Well, Geronimo became convinced that a witch was doing it, so he had the local medicine man come in to try to identify who the witch was. Kind of a strange thing, but again, he was devoted to this little girl, Eva, and one visitor said, quote, "Nobody could be kinder to a child than he was to her." This was a father, a grandfather. He was a kind person. He was just trying to save his people. But here's what he said to his nephew. He said, before he died, he said, "Promise me that you and Ramona, his wife, will take my daughter Eva into your home and care for her as you do your own children. Promise me that you will not let her marry. If you do, she will die." He had this feeling that there was a curse of some kind. Well, unfortunately, she did marry, and in 1910, Eva died of tuberculosis.
Oh,
in
my goodness sakes.
1911. So,
Wow.
so Geronimo's fears came true that for whatever reason, this little girl, this beautiful young lady died, and he had, I guess, seen this somehow many years before.
When you studied this story on Geronimo, did you find other documentation historically as fact, or did you find just some made-up stories?
I checked several sources, and so I tried to put this together as best I could. And again, we've talked about this before. It's what he said, she said, and to me, it sounds...
But it's sad, isn't it?
It really is.
Here's a guy, and I don't mean to sound trite when I say this, but here's a guy that led his people against a warring faction, the cavalry of the United States, and they both were with one goal, and that's to win that respective war.
Exactly.
But after they lose, the Indians lose, and they're shipped off to all these various points of the compass, they were never respected like other wars and other lost leaderships.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. And, some reservations were on the same land that the Indians had lived on.
Yeah.
So there were reservations that were very good, and a good place for them to settle down. And why they tried to move these people, and they tried sometimes to make them into farmers.
Yeah.
And these guys were hunters, gatherers. They weren't farmers. And actually, eventually they did, I didn't mention that, they did let them go back to their homeland.
Were there any, I've only got a minute, I've got less than that. Were there any members of his family, Geronimo's family, i.e. brothers, sisters, cousins, or even other children, that ever made a historical fact come to life with historians, or was this about it?
I could not find anything else.
Wow.
Once again, if we could find a relative of somebody,
wow.
It would be so great
Wow.
to be able to see the actual, real story.
Yeah, really.
So I hope this was fairly accurate.
You did a phenomenal job on that.
Thank you.
Very good job. Thank you very much, Dr. History. And believe me, it's the truth. Heard in many, many, many foreign countries right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And we're glad to have him here every Tuesday. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we go to the break at the bottom of the hour, I want to remind you that November 5th, of course, Election Day. And there's a gentleman that would like your vote to become mayor of Heyburn, and that's Mark Rosa. And he would love to be your mayor, and he says he has new ideas for Heyburn and its citizens. And he said we need smart leadership that will keep taxes and utility rates in line with neighboring cities, and he will not overturn the will of the people by pushing through items that were voted down. He wants to work with you and for you as your mayor. So remember, on November 5th, Mark Rosa for mayor of Heyburn, paid for by Mark Rosa for mayor. Also, real quick, and then I got to visit with Dr. History for a moment before he leaves. I want to remind you about our friends Matt and Kelly Wiggins over at Greystone Crossing, Independent Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Heyburn. Absolutely a place for seniors to enjoy, a place for seniors to be with their friends. Housekeeping, local transportation, 3 meals a day, all of this provided in a beautiful, absolutely beautiful surrounding. Find out more. Take a tour. Call Matt and Kelly Wiggins at 650-4979. That number again, 650-4979. Greystone Crossing Independent Senior Living. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, we're going to send it over to our main studio. I'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, a chilly, 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 I'm going to say cold day today. And we want to remind you that you can have your house welcome you home with the perfect temperature. The iComfort Wi-Fi thermostat from Lennox, featuring remote control access from anywhere you are. Don't forget, check it out today. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox offering up to $1,600 in rebates on a new home comfort system. So keep comfortable. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459. One other great sponsor and advertiser that I want to talk about, and that's Patterson's Electronics at 421 East Main in Burley. Busy. Wow, went by there yesterday. All kinds of people in there. Absolutely. And they're located again, 421 East Main, and they are your electronics headquarters. I mean, if you're talking home theater systems, oh, look out. They've got the best, along with video surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, and all the TVs for your home comfort enjoyment. Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs. What a great selection. And don't forget, they're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Patterson's in Burley at 421 East Main. Number to call, Curtis and Lorena, 678-6997. First and foremost, I want to thank this next gentleman for a spur of the moment getting ready to come on this program this morning, and thanks to Brad Lake too. But we have attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation. I'm going to say his last name. He can correct me. Daniel Weislaw. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you got the last name just right. Thanks for having me on the program, Seth.
Well, no, my thanks to you, Dan, because, man, it was a zoo here this morning, and I was the head monkey everybody was throwing peanuts at because I didn't have my guest canceled for 10:30, and so you jumped in, and I really appreciate it. And the PLF, the Pacific Legal Foundation, has absolutely been excellent, and I want to compliment you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I come to the Pacific Legal Foundation, which, as I'm sure you know, does a tremendous amount of property rights litigation. We do free speech. You know, if it's in the Bill of Rights, for the most part, we're litigating it. Again, you know, trying to protect individual freedom from government overreach. But I come specifically from a background in criminal defense. And today, I want to talk a little bit about search and seizure law, which isn't something that only criminals have to worry about, but also, you know, perhaps the mother baking cookies in a home kitchen for her child's bake sale might have to worry about government regulators trying to peep in on her kitchen and test her cookies.
You know, Daniel, I think it goes without saying, and I want to elaborate on this story and other things that pertain to it, but really, is there such a thing today, honestly, as private property rights?
I don't think I'd be doing this job if I didn't think that there was. But specifically within the context of search and seizure law, we talk about the Fourth Amendment, which is supposed to secure us in our persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure. But the problem is that since the 1960s, the Supreme Court has thrown away persons, houses, papers, and effects and private property analysis for this amorphous standard of what is defined as privacy. And privacy is a word that wasn't really used all that much during the time of the founding. What the founders meant to protect was privacy, but they meant to do it through protecting our private property against government encroachment. And that's something that I think in this era of over-criminalization and over-regulation and the government trying to pierce sort of every personal and private affiliation that we have, in order to gain information and regulate us. That's something that's sort of been lost in the discussion.
Wheels over at the station, I'm going to ask you when Mr. Weislaw is speaking, turn him up just a little bit, please. Daniel, let me ask you this. In accordance with this story back in Norfolk, Virginia, unconstitutional abuse of private property owners. When I read this, I absolutely couldn't believe this was happening in America. Explain that story to us.
Yes, absolutely. So there are these ordinances that are being passed all over the country, basically trying to regulate people who are renting out rooms or their homes for short periods of time. And the way that Norfolk has chosen to do this is they say you've got to register if you want to have an Airbnb or you want to rent out a room for, you know, a short period of time. You have to register with the government. And when you register with the government, what they make you do is they make you sign this document to agree to a law enforcement right of entry onto your property. And there isn't really any limitation in the language. It just says that they can come onto your property and they can search for compliance with zoning regulations and building code. So it's just totally handing over your Fourth Amendment rights.
I don't understand. Right there, I'm going to play really kind of a dumb advocate here and play a little bit of the workshop of trying to figure this story out. But why? I mean, if somebody leaves for Arizona, let's say, from November, Thanksgiving, through Christmas holidays and comes back in February, but they want someone to stay in the house, use the house, and make sure the house is kept up, and they rent it out, what business of it is the government's?
Well, I don't think it's any business of the government. And you see that these regulations time and again have come under this guise of public health and safety. But really what it is the government just trying to carve out wherever they can the ability to come into our private homes and into our private property and inspect. And in an era where there are so many crimes and so many regulations on the books that really innocuous things can be criminal. I mean, you've heard, I'm sure, about some of the cases that we've argued about people just building a pond in their backyard, being fined, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars and even imprisoned for it. This is just sort of an opportunity that the government can come in and they can find things that are wrong and then they can go after you for it. And part of it is that they can increase their tax revenue so that they can tax and regulate these business opportunities.
Well, Dan, explain this to me. Why then are timeshares, they're okay to do on the same piece of property? One family moves out, the next family moves in, etc. on a timeshare. Why isn't the government picking on them?
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't specifically looked at timeshares, but if that is the case, then the best distinction I can draw, and we see this happening all over the country, is that the people who run timeshares, who operate these businesses, are concentrated interest groups, and they are successful, oftentimes, where private homeowners are not successful, in lobbying the government to get exceptions from laws like this. Now, I don't know that that's specifically the case in Norfolk, but if you look at what's going on in California, with their new independent contractor law, it's like they created this rule that applies to everyone except for the people who have a strong enough voice to catch the ear of a representative and carve out an exception for them. And so often it's the people who are not as organized, it's the private homeowners, it's the private entrepreneurs, it's the kid with a lemonade stand who end up being affected by these onerous regulations rather than, the industries that have concentrated voices.
There was in the information sheet that was sent to me regarding this story, and I again apologize, I haven't had a chance to make notations or really read it in its entirety to the point where I understood everything, but there was one sentence that really stood out to me, and it was city officials enacted an ordinance requiring property owners who use online home sharing platforms to register with the city and submit to municipal inspections of their property. You touched on it lightly just a few moments ago, but why? I mean, that's my home, and if I want to have somebody live in it while I'm in Arizona or wherever, and they're going to pay rent to live there for a couple of months and keep my house up to speed, what business is it of the city and or any law enforcement agency?
Well, that's a distinction that I've made time and again that I think is a distinction without significance. Because if this is just somebody coming into your house and living there for doing the same sort of stuff that you would be doing, it's not like they're operating a steel, like a steel mill in there or a coal processing plant in your house, then you should be subject to the same types of regulations that any private homeowner is subject to. Now, I think those themselves are a little bit onerous, but back a little while ago, the Supreme Court said you still have to get a warrant. Even if it's a watered-down warrant, even if it isn't the same kind of warrant you have to get for a criminal investigation, the government, if they want to come into your private home and inspect it for compliance with a municipal zoning or municipal building and safety code, they have to go to a judicial official in order to get permission to come into your house and inspect it. And this is a separation of powers principle, actually, that we don't talk about all that much. We think about separation of powers in the context of, well, the federal government can do this and the states can do that. But actually what this is it's a separation of powers principle. You have to go, the people who write the laws and the entities who enforce the laws can't be the people who are determining whether their own conduct is reasonable under the Fourth Amendment. They have to go to a judge, a separate judicial official, and he has to say that it's reasonable. And that's something that's been lost in a lot of this expansion of the regulatory state over the last, few decades.
Well, there's a little scenario. I've been just thinking about this over your conversation. Here's a retired couple. Here's Bert and Edith. They're our couple. And they've been asked to house sit for a couple that's going to take off for the winter. And Bert and Edith said, this is really going to be handy for us because we really don't own a home anymore. We travel around in our motorhome, so we'll pay you rent for the months that you're gone and we're living in your house. And all of a sudden there's a knock on the door one night and there's a police officer, and they don't, according to what you have written here, they don't have to have probable cause to come in and search a private home. This really leaves me scratching my head.
Absolutely, and I think that were it to be enforced that way, we'd have a very strong challenge against the constitutionality of it. I think even under the prevailing case law, which in my opinion is a little bit too deferential to government search and seizure, even under this case camera versus municipal court, I think it's unconstitutional. There's no question that you have a right to refuse those people.
But, you know,
property and search your home.
This story is about Norfolk, Virginia, but what scares me, and please make me feel less worried, what about other states? What about other circumstances? Is this just a one-time bullet, Barney, or is it happening in other places?
Well, this is one of the worst crafted applications that I've seen, because it just has no regard for limitations or getting a warrant or any of the protections. There's no notice required. That doesn't mean it's necessarily how it's going to be implemented in practice, but no, this is something that's happening all over the country. If you look at any big city, most of them have an ordinance like this. Some of them provide for notice before the inspection. Some of them only require an inspection before you are able to get the registration and place it onto the platform like Airbnb or something of that nature. And some of them are better and some of them are worse. But I think that many of these are defective constitutionally because they say nothing about any kind of judicial intervention, and that is the cornerstone of the issue here. And the justification for this is they've said, and some courts have agreed with this, that this is a closely regulated industry, renting your house out to other people. I strongly disagree with that, but there is this line of cases from the Supreme Court that are really unfortunate to say if something is a closely regulated industry, then you have a reduced expectation of privacy because you know that you're going to have to comply with all of these regulations. And therefore, as long as the government satisfies a few different factors, then it's reasonable for them to come on and inspect your property, whether it's private or business, without a warrant. And that is just a case in point for the problem with looking at privacy versus property. I mean, when the founders ratified the Fourth Amendment in the Constitution, we were talking about this broad theory of property. I mean, the reason that papers is included in there, even though typically they would be considered effects, is because they were trying to codify this broad theory of property that John Locke talked about, where you own yourself and you own the fruits of your labor and you own your ideas, and all of this is supposed to be protected from government search and seizure. So what we should be doing, and what I advocate that we should be doing, is looking at, is it a person, house, paper, or effect? If yes, go get a warrant, unless one of those basic English common law exceptions apply, like an officer chasing a guy down the street who he just saw shoot somebody.
I'm sitting here and I'm just questioning, and I hate to sound naive about this, Dan, but don't ask, don't tell anybody. I mean, if I'm going to go on vacation and I've worked a deal with another couple to come in and house sit my home, why should I, in a free society, tell anybody? It's nobody else's business. Or why should I open up a Pandora's box of problems with the police? Just go, make a deal with another couple. It's my property. I don't think anybody else has the knowledge or the right to know.
Well, I think that's for some period of time since Airbnb and a lot of these platforms came online, and even before then, when people didn't have these platforms and they were just sort of handshake agreements, that's how things were going. And then the government realized, we could be regulating this and we could be taxing this. How can we, A, pass an ordinance that will allow us to do that, and B, make sure that people are complying with it? And part of this compliance prong of passing these statutes is cities like New York City, for example, requiring that when you register that you hand over all of this private information about the people who are renting from you, when they rented from you, what their contact information is, when their check-in and check-out was. And this is something that has been litigated in New York City that eventually ended up being a settlement. But there's some case law that I think is instructive on that issue that says you can't do that without some sort of a judicial review process.
Little by little, inch by inch, every single day, Big Brother is taking more away from a free society. I think you'd concur.
I would, unfortunately. But in 2012, the United States Supreme Court decided what I think is a very important case of the United States versus Jones, where Scalia wrote the opinion, and it had to do with the police coming onto somebody's property and putting a GPS tracking device on a truck and then monitoring where it went for a period of time. And Scalia said, and I think this is going to have a big impact that we haven't seen yet, he said this is a trespass. We don't even need to look at whether he expected privacy against government monitoring of his GPS location. They physically trespassed on his truck, even if they didn't do any damage, and that ended up revealing information about him. And so he has a property protection. He has a protection against the invasion of his property under the Fourth Amendment. And I think that is something that we can use to fight back against the administrative regulation encroachment here. Where let's not look at whether people feel like stuff should be private. Let's look at whether this is a house we're talking about. And if it is, go get a warrant.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you what, I hope you really sink your claws into this one. Daniel Weissklaw of the Pacific Legal Foundation. Daniel, if people want to follow this story or any of the stories with Pacific Legal, what do they do?
You can go to pacificlegal.org, and we post all of our op-eds, and we have many blog posts, bios on all of our attorneys and staff here. You can follow a lot of our cases that we're litigating, including one that touches somewhat on this topic by the title of Stavronidakis versus U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
You're excellent, and I certainly hope you'll consent to coming back in the future. Attorney Daniel Weissklaw with Pacific Legal Foundation. God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thanks for having me on the program.
Very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Wow. I mean, here you go. Private property rights. They're hard to find. It's time for the weather, but before we do the weather, I got to tell you, I am starving. I'm so hungry right now, and I know a place that you need to go. It's absolutely easy to get there and easy to enjoy, and that's Edith's Cafe. Oh, my goodness. They're located at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, right across from the golf course, and they've got everything over there. I mean, they're open Tuesday and Thursdays 11 to 8, Friday and Saturday 11 to 9. What a menu choice. Oh my, the steak sandwiches and the hamburgers, their hamburgers are second to none. Absolutely delicious. And of course, one thing that caught my eye is that they've got peach cobbler a la mode. Oh boy, I'm coming. Look out. Edith's Cafe. And they serve beer and wine, and they've got all the Coke products, and believe me, they do catering. It's all there at Edith's Cafe, 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. Stop in and enjoy a delicious, absolutely scrumptious lunch today. Right now, the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you by our dear friends at Scarrows Meats. Oh, my goodness, Don Scarrow and the crew, they're located at 331 North Road, Jerome, and the telephone number to give them a call is 324-7657. Now, I got to tell you, I start drooling every time I start talking about all these delicious meats. The marinated pork ribs will just knock your boots off delicious. And, of course, the tri-tips and all the different bacons and the sausages. But then you come to the bratwurst, my favorite. Oh, my, delicious. Check it out. Call them 324-7657. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And we'll have more after Gina gives us the weather.
Feels a little bit more like winter today. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We do have a 20% chance of snow showers at least until we get to noon. By the afternoon, mostly cloudy skies. We are expecting a high of 25. Plus a little bit breezy, gusts as high as 24 miles an hour out of the northeast. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, gradually becoming clear in the overnight hours. Going to get cold, though. Low of about 5. Winds are going to stay consistent, gusts as high as about 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, sunny skies, expecting a high of 32. Winds are going to be calming down, nice and clear for tomorrow night with a low of 12. By Thursday, sunny and 43, warming up to 45 under sunny skies by Friday. That's what's your weather forecast for Zephyr 3.
Oh, my. I've got right here on my little bitty thermometer, I've got 18 degrees. Whoop. It is cold outside, and the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and don't forget, at Scarrows Meats, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Caller, I've got exactly a minute, so go fast.
Well, Saturday night I drove on Highway 30 past your house, and I noticed the neighbors were digging spots. And I know that they were scrambling. I don't know if they got done, but I think that after the last night and tonight, they may not have any choice. Now, if some of these farmers didn't get the beets dug, that might even be an issue, too, at this point.
Yep.
But I don't want to see my fellow farmers, take a hammering, because these guys are what keep the economy going around here. They're our friends. And I hope that it wasn't, your daughter's family that was out there. I hope that's none of my business.
Well, if you went by my place in the last few days, the field across the road, yes, that was one of my son-in-law's fields, and they were going 99 miles an hour to hurry up and catch up.
Yeah, it was Saturday night, and I mean, they had that place lit up like there's no tomorrow, but it doesn't matter. I just wanted them to, in the real world, you have to go out and get things done. It's just like you got to milk cows, whether or not it's rainy and crappy or freezing cold. You got to go out and do this stuff. And people are out here working in this cold today. I am too. And you see, you got people that cheat or on welfare who suck off of the government, which is our money. And you got people mismanaging the money, and they're sitting on their duff somewhere, and the rest of us are out here keeping this thing rolling.
Really, absolutely well stated. Well stated. Randy, as you can see by your wristwatch, I got to run to the news, but call me tomorrow on the first hour. I'd like to talk more about work ethics, responsibility, and get what you deserve. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations celebrating a great big fall tire sale right now. I can tell you, they are busy. Oh, wow. All 7 locations. You hear that thing going on? And they're running here and they're pushing tires here. Holy cow, they're busy. And they serve you with the best of tires in that great big fall tire sale. And, of course, the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Please take my word for it. With these cold snaps, you better make sure you've got a really, really good battery. And they have them at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Trent on Overland in Burley. They are the best in serving you. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, Dave Bego, and then we've got, Dave Bego, and then we've got a gentleman talking about our national anthem, Jefferson Moore, and then Pastor Paul Thompson will be on tomorrow morning also. We really appreciate his coming on. That's going to be it for today, where we always end the program by saying the way things were, or the way things ought to be, but the 4 big words that we really adhere to: in God we trust. Have a wonderful day. Stay warm. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.